Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunil Rajguru, editor at Cyber Media, and your host for today's live webinar. A warm welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us for our discussion today around the importance of resilient, scalable infrastructure to power business critical applications. We will have a fireside chat with Sanjay Agarwal, technology head Hitachi Vantara, and Sudarshan Arvamuthan, technical expert, business critical applications, and converged Hitachi Vantara APAC. We will then have a presentation by Sudarshan. Finally, we will have an audience Q&A. You can key in your questions in the chat window on the right from now and throughout the webinar. Don't forget to give your feedback at the end of the webinar. Now for the opening note. Yeah. So, we can't help it, but we are surrounded by this COVID-19 crisis and pandemic and lockdown. But while the tragedy is in one place, so we human race, we always overcome these challenges. We always overcome them. And in every crisis, there comes an opportunity. If you see in the last 100 years, whenever we have had a crisis, we upgrade ourselves technologically and we come back with a bang. And this time should be no different. So we shall do that again. Ashok, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So I'll just start with a quote by Tony Robbins. So it says, in every crisis lies opportunity. People who are successful are not lucky. They are just prepared for opportunities that come their way. So I would say that in this crisis, there is an opportunity and we have to be successful and we have to be prepared in every way. Next, please. Yeah. So I'll just go back a bit, like maybe which is the biggest tragedy if you see of the last 100 years? It is undoubtedly World War II. Again, there was a tragedy that happened in World War II, which we overcame. But an interesting part was that we rose up to the challenge. We not only did we triumph World War II, but we upgraded ourselves technologically. People don't realize that the period between World War II, the if just take the years before and after, there was a huge sudden technological acceleration. Like, so for example, everyone talks of ENIAC being the first computer. Actually, there's something that's called the Colossus computer that came before that, and that was a precursor. You see, the Nazis had Enigma code, which was absolutely unbreakable. So the British, they, in order to counter it, they came out with such innovations related to cryptography, numerology, that all those servers till this present day. The research that was done in World War II powers the World Wide Web of today. Then something like even CDMA. Now again, one was the Enigma machine, which they used to beat us. The second thing was that they would jam whatever communications the British and American had. So to overcome that jamming, they came out with a technology called CDMA, or code divisional multiple access, which was lying for decades unused, and then suddenly we used it, and it is CDMA has powered our entire mobile revolution. Then after that, even if you look at whatever rocketry research was done, that was done during World War II. That again led to our satellites, communication satellites. It led to our GPS satellites, jet planes, atomic energy. So you'll be surprised to know that the computer revolution, the cryptography revolution, the CDMA revolution, the satellite communication revolution, the GPS revolution, even NASA itself, everything was born of World War II. So this is what happens when a tragedy happens. We can't help it, but we have to. The only way to move forward is to upgrade ourselves. So if you see, after World War II, probably the biggest, shifting generation is now. We are seeing history change right before our very eyes, right? And it's not a question of the pandemic or the lockdown. It is a question of how we have already risen up to the challenge. So if you see, the first technological upgrade, the first technological acceleration took place during World War II. The second upgrade is taking place right now. We are seeing an upgrade take before our very eyes. The simple example is, the moment it happened, we had work from home and collaboration. Zoom was launched in 2011. The concept of work from home has been around for like 10-15 years, but overnight, within months, we have adopted the WFH culture. Zoom in India saw a uptick by thousands of percentage points. This happened overnight. The mobile workforce, everything. If you see I mean, hats off to all the IT companies. Within months, we have already, the new normal is not coming. The new normal is already here. So that's what I'm saying. And we are seeing a technological upgrade right before our very eyes. And the next lot is the no-touch technologies. The Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, drones, and connected cars. We are seeing a great technological upgrade. So Ashok, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, but you have to remember one thing. Whatever happens, data is still the new oil, and data is at the center of it. So data was important, and data will be even more important now. We will have more data, both structured and unstructured. There will be problems with data migration, creating new cloud centers. We will have to upscale our cloud capability, you know, in unlimited ways. We will need intelligent cloud through AI. And it's not only the volume, like 7 8 years back, we just had a handful of hyperscale centers, but now we have more than 500 hyperscale centers. I won't be surprised if in the 2020s you will have thousands of hyperscale data centers, right? A simple thing is IoT devices. Now when we talk of data, a lot of data is going to come through IoT devices. So today we have more IoT devices than there are human beings. And there is one survey which says we may have 500 billion IoT devices by 2030. So you can just imagine the amount of data that we are going to generate, the amount of data crunching, the amount of cloud centers, and the amount of expertise that will be required around the data centers. So Ashok, next slide, please. Yeah, so I think we have to look at this positively. We have to look at it as a challenge, and we have to upgrade ourselves, right? And that has to be the mood of the next decade, that we have to upgrade the technology of the world at a very fast rate. So that's the opening note from my side. So now we will have a fireside chat with Sanjay Agarwal, technology head Hitachi Vantara, and Sudarshan Arvamuthan, technical expert, business critical applications and converged Hitachi Vantara APAC. It is my pleasure to invite them to this fireside chat. So welcome Sanjay and Sudarshan.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumit.
Yeah. So I think we'll straight go to the questions, right?
Sure.
So I think the first question is, since it's around data, so you see data and digital transformation are the two major buzzwords of today. There is a significant focus on data by today's CIO. So could you both tell us why data is becoming the core to the digital transformation strategy?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Sunil. Let me start with an interesting survey that was done, a couple of months back in one of the CIO events, and the question to CIOs was, what is one thing, Mr. CIO, that you would like to focus most on that will help you accelerate your digital transformation journey? 70% of the CIOs said it's data. They mean data monetization to accelerate digital transformation journey. We all know digital transformation is predominantly focusing on three areas. One is customer experience, second is operational processes and automation, and third is new business strategies and new business models. Let's look at each one of them and the role of the data that's being played over here. If we start with customer experience, let's take the example of banks. In past, banks were analyzing transactional data to understand customers. But today, they are looking at the data that is related to interactions that their customers are doing with the banks, the sentiments that their customers have when they are on social media, the locations they visit, their online behaviors when they are visiting their sites, and their preferences and things like that. This is all about data, and how and why they want to use this data is predominantly to have a very differentiated experience for customers. They want to come up with offers and recommendations. They want to offer personalized services, and that is a significant part of digital transformation journey when it comes to differentiated customer experience. Let's talk about the processes and automations. We all know retailers are using data to optimize floor plan, placement of shelves, placement of products in shelves, market basket analysis we have been talking a lot about, and they are also looking at data to ensure that they have right inventory in place when it comes to peak selling time or lunchtime, when sale is expected to be very high. Similarly, when it comes to strategy, when it comes to go to market, when it comes to new business models, they are looking into the data that's coming in from social media. They're looking at reviews data. They want to understand what is working, what is not working, and they are redefining their go-to-market with different customer focus, different product strategy, and things like that. So predominantly, a role of data becomes very important when we are talking about digital transformation. So CIOs are looking for a journey that will take them to something known as data-driven organization, where they are able to effectively monetize the data that they are generating today, or their transactions are generating, and other devices that they have are generating. So this is the challenges that CIOs have. While many of them know that their ultimate goal is to become DDO, data-driven organization, but how do we reach there? What are the milestones? What are the things that they need to do to ensure that they are able to effectively get the data, monetize the data to the business advantage? And that's where we at Hitachi Vantara feel that there are a couple of milestones that are important for CIOs to consider when they are embarking on data journey for their enterprises. And we call it SEAM. This is known as number one, storage of the data. Second is enrichment of the data. Third is activation of the data, and finally, one can monetize the data. Very quickly on this, store is all about storing the data. Huge amount of data that enterprises are generating. Store it, manage it, and protect it so that your foundation is there to leverage upon. Another interesting thing, as Sunil mentioned, these days we are talking about big data, and big data has significant unstructured data, which is significantly different from structured data that we have been dealing in past. Unstructured data, unfortunately, does not come with the same level of quality that structured data has. As a result, its ability to get discovered, analyzed is not as good as structured data. So the first initiative, first project for CIOs is to enrich the data to improve the quality so that this data is good for analysis. And then, activation of the data, not only from searchability perspective, discovery perspective, but also integration of the structured data and unstructured data, which will give a 360-degree that I talked about across transactions, not only transactions, but interactions, sentiments, and things like that. That's where the activation comes in. You come to know customer better, you are able to come up with different strategies, and that's when you start monetizing data for the business advantage, and that will help you in your business moving forward.
Yeah. So, when you gave that explanation there, you touched upon big data. Now, big data is another important thing. So, will traditional data platforms and tools be good enough to manage the enormity of big data? What are the new trends that you're seeing in this particular space?
That's a very interesting question, Sunil. Let me touch upon some numbers first. When we were talking about the business transactions, organizations had 50, 60 terabyte of data. Maybe a couple of big organizations had a couple of hundreds of terabytes of data. But when we are talking about big data, it significantly has unstructured data. And unstructured data is typically 80 to 90% of the total data. And the total size of the data, unstructured, semi-structured, structured, put together, is getting into multiple petabytes for the organization. So the challenges for the CIOs are, do I have a right platform to store those petabytes of data? If we are able to store, or if we are able to have scalable platform, do I have the mechanism in place to ensure that data, that petabytes of data, or even few hundred terabytes of data is getting backed up within the backup window that I have within the organization? And trust me, this number is going to multiple petabytes and 20, 30 petabytes as well. Then comes another challenge. What about compliance? What about ensuring that unstructured data that requires quality improvement, can it be supported by in-platform capabilities and things like that? So from a platform perspective, if you look at, there are challenges like scalability. There are challenges like, how to ensure the backup is taken within the window that we have. There are challenges like how do we ensure compliance, like write once, read many, long-term retention. Even certain organizations are looking for legal hold. When you put all of these together, you would realize that traditional technologies like SAN and NAS are not able to answer any of these questions. That is where CIOs have to redefine their data strategy, and object storage technology becomes an integral part of the data strategy that CIOs are going for. So this requires a platform change. It's not a platform change, I would say. The NAS and SAN would continue to be a part of data center strategy, but object storage can come in and add value when it comes to big data and a lot of things like backup, compliance and other things. So object storage by default is able to scale to multiple petabytes and hundreds of petabytes, in fact, as we speak. It also has certain capabilities within the platform wherein CIOs don't need to take the backup of the data. And that becomes another value addition. Compliance capabilities are built in so that, as per the regulatory norms, CIOs are able to restore the data without any worry. And also data integrity is ensured. When it comes to tools, there are challenges today. If you look at, the challenges that come in from a big data perspective are, number one, are we able to have solution that helps solve data ops, which is similar to DevOps in a big data space? Current tools may not be able to do that. In the new technology, when we talk about big data, there are hundreds of sources coming in and pumping in data to data lakes. Do we have the right technology and tools to allow so many sources to get onboarded on the data lake? Are we able to have structured data and unstructured data getting blended real time to give new insights in real time? When you look at all of these capabilities that typically CIOs need when it comes to big data, answers with traditional technologies may be no. And that's where object storage as a platform could be a value addition, and certain big data analytics tools that we provide like Pentaho would come in and accelerate data ops initiative, speedy onboarding of data sources that are many in number, and dynamically real-time on-demand able to blend the data that are around interactions, sentiments, transaction, and give a new insights. So yes, there is a bit of transformation required in the data center and data strategy to redefine the platform strategy and to adopt tools that are able to give you the capability for big data analytics.
So that was a very detailed explanation about the data and big data part. Then the other aspect of, the other side of data is the cloud, like you mentioned, the storage and backup. So cloud is an integral part of the CIO's data center modernization strategy. So what are the changes you are seeing in the industry, especially taking into account the current situation?
Very interesting one. Cloud has always been, as you rightly said, has always been a part of CIO's, IT strategy. But with the current situation, there is a bit of change that is happening, and I'm seeing it in the past 3 or 4 months, and I would like to share that. Let me first talk about the challenges that are redefining the cloud strategy for the CIOs. Many organizations who had plans to expand their data center because of the growth, because of IT infrastructure footprint that was expected to increase, are not able to do in the current situation. Second challenge that CIOs are facing is that just to keep the lights on, if they were supposed to, deploy n number of people, IT staff, today they can't do it. They are supposed to do maybe 10% or a maximum 33% of that. When it comes to disaster recovery, they do not have that level of accessibility to trigger disaster recovery site to ensure it's up and running. And they need some solution which is zero RTO, zero RPO, and with less human intervention. Now, if you just keep these three problem areas in mind, customers are revisiting their cloud strategy because these can be significantly addressed when a right cloud strategy is in place. So those customers who never had cloud strategy, are starting their cloud strategy. Those who had cloud strategy, they have started redefining it in such a way that it is able to have that hybrid flavor in it, so that when you need data center expansion, you are able to seamlessly move your workloads as well as data to a public cloud, and you don't need to worry about DC expansion. When it comes to significant workload that's running on public cloud, obviously you don't need to maintain and manage that, and hence your human intervention required to manage that part of the business is significantly reduced. Even DR is possible on cloud. That will certainly ensure that your operational support required to maintain the DR or trigger the DR would be minimized. So predominantly, CIOs are redefining their cloud strategy to accelerate cloud strategy, to bring hybrid flavor to the cloud, and ensure that it's not only the application but also data, because data footprint also is big. So not only application but also data is leveraging the public cloud, and that's where a lot of initiatives are being taken by CIOs to redefine the cloud strategy. One important aspect is that when it comes to management, they also focus on shifting focus from operations to innovations, and the underlying infrastructure that they have, which could be converged infra, hyper converged infra, scalable infra. Can I manage all of these seamlessly with single unified tool and management framework? Those are some of the initiatives that they are taking to ensure that they have the right cloud strategy and they are able to shift focus from operations to innovation.
I kind of would agree with completely with what Sanjay is saying, and also very important is that customers are looking at that whole enablement of hybrid cloud strategy. And what's also important is that we're seeing a lot of customers undertaking modernization efforts, not only with regards to infrastructure, but also with regards to the applications. So we have customers that are essentially looking at lift and shift, refactoring or complete rewriting of the code to be DevOps like. Therefore, we see a lot of efforts around the containerization of workloads, and containerization essentially gives you that portability and quickly gets you the capability to run it on premise or in any of the public cloud data centers. So essentially, what we see is, along with the traditional infrastructure as a service getting modernized to be like private, like public cloud, like we would see a lot of applications also getting modernized, where microservices, containerization, all of that becomes an important aspect. So hybrid cloud is essentially one of the accelerated priorities for most of the organizations under the digital transformation initiative here. And we'll probably, kind of showcase what Hitachi is doing in this space in my presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Sudarshan. Sunil, we are not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
now.
So sorry about that. Yeah. So it is key for today's CIO to ensure non-stop IT services for both critical applications and data. Can you speak a bit about that?
That's another interesting question. Last few months, many CIOs I've interacted with, they are saying traditionally, you guys have been talking about uptime, you have been talking about infrastructure, resiliency, MTBF, and all of that. Businesses no longer need to understand what is there at the hardware level. How can we ensure that the same level of assurance is coming not only at hardware level, but also at data level and towards the business as well? So let's touch upon the hardware part first, because that creates a foundation. Initially, if you look at RFPs were coming out, CIOs were asking for uptime, which is 3 nines or 4 nines. Today, they're asking about 6 to 8 nines of uptime at infrastructure level. When it comes to storage, for example, we have seen that in past, if there is a failure or two controller failures in the system, the entire data is unavailable and business comes to standstill. No single point of failure architecture was very selectively done for certain applications, and reliability, availability, serviceability has been very limited in the design considerations. So from infrastructure standpoint, CIOs are expecting multiple controller failures, for example, to be tolerated in the system, and it should continue to provide data access to the applications and business. Now, this is just a part of the hardware uptime expectations and resiliency expectation. They are going beyond that. There are CIOs who are coming back and asking, can you ensure that the data that business applications need, that businesses need, are available around the clock? Forget about the underlying infrastructure. So there are new SLAs that are coming up in the market, and that is 100% data availability guarantee to the business applications and hence to the business. This is something which is new that CIOs are asking, and we at Hitachi have a complete program, complete service around that. We not only provide this, but also ensure that if there is a loss of data accessibility, organizations are compensated for that. That is a differentiator. Then it comes to business continuity as a part of business initiative. We are also able to come up with initiative which will allow almost takeover kind of approach, not failover, takeover kind of approach with zero RTO for disaster recovery side to come up and take the operation control completely with active approach. This is something that would be without any human intervention and is able to control the data, provide the full access of data to the applications and to the business. So these are some of the initiatives that we are taking that ensures that it's not only the hardware that is assured in terms of uptime and availability, but also data and also business continuity, and ensure that there is a better business SLAs for the organizations.
Okay, so thank you for that. I think at this stage I'd like to bring the audience in. So Ashok, can you put the first poll question? So we request the audience, all of you, to participate in this poll, so we can analyze it later. Yeah. So just in the current scenario, what are your key focus areas to ensure your business availability? So just please click it so we can analyze it. Yeah, and Ashok, I think we can see the results. Okay, so that's interesting. I guess that's very interesting because data center resiliency, data availability guarantee to applications, and business continuity with automation as the core, all three are like equal, but the highest is all of the above. So I think maybe you'll have to talk a bit about all of them, because all of them seem to be important then for our audience.
So interesting part, Sunil,
Yeah.
if we had done the survey pre-COVID, we would have gone highest one in the first category, that's infra only.
I agree with
but thanks to current situation, the considerations are different, and there's a significant focus on data as well as the business aspect of it. But predominantly, if you see, almost 50% of the CIOs are saying all three are important.
Right.
Very, very right analysis, and thanks for that.
So at this stage, maybe I'll ask a question about one of your products. So Hitachi recently announced its flagship product, the VSP 5000 series. So can you tell us something about that and how it could help the CIOs?
Yeah, this is one of our best design considerations. We launched a product which is around NVMe little late as compared to many other players in the market. And one of the reasons for us to introduce it recently was to ensure that when CIOs buy a product, they get best benefit out of the NVMe technologies that people are talking about. So this is, I can use the word true end-to-end NVMe ready platform for your data storage in data center. Couple of numbers I can share with you to show how powerful this platform is. It can scale up to 21 million IOPS, which is highest in industry today. To best of my knowledge, the nearest one that is available is 15 billion. Clearly, more than 35-40% of what is available. Latency plays an important role when we talk about digital transformation, when we talk about customer experience. The customer transaction should be executed pretty fast. And today, customers and CIOs are demanding around 100 microsecond kind of latency in the system. Our system is fine-tuned in such a way that you would be able to get up to 70 or 75 microseconds. When it comes to data center consolidation, workload consolidation that most of the CIOs are focusing on, it's able to accommodate data which is close to 70 petabyte. It also has inbuilt capability for data reduction that can bring in 4:1 kind of data reduction to save space. Another interesting thing is CIOs sometimes come back and say that I have mixed applications. Certain applications we want to save footprint or data space, storage space for, but certain applications we don't want to compromise performance. Can I get best of both the worlds within my single array? And we are able to do that. So certain business critical applications can have full performance advantage with this platform. At the same time, second tier or third tier of applications that are not very performance hungry can be optimized to save storage space of up to 75%. By 75% up to 25%. Additionally, platform provides 100% data availability guarantee. It also has, certain leverage of AI ML to come up with certain tools that are inbuilt in the platform that helps, automate certain operations, give proactive insights so that, storage admins are away from, operational part of it and able to focus more on performance for the business applications and things like that. This platform can also be used to build up certain application stacks like HANA, and this can scale up to 200 plus. I think it's 222 nodes in a single HANA cluster and all of that. So this is the platform on earth, gives the highest level of scalability, performance, manageability, and actually true end-to-end NVMe ready platform for business critical applications and entire enterprise consolidation.
So maybe we can have the next poll question, Ashok. Yeah. So do you feel the WFH initiative would become more prominent in your organization for the large majority of your workforce? So again, please respond and we can analyze it. Yeah, so again, as expected, like Sanjay, you are also talking. I mean, post-COVID and pre-COVID will probably get totally different things. You can see that no is very less.
Yeah,
So
Applies everywhere. Applies
yeah,
everywhere.
not, it's not surprising.
yeah. So I guess the lifestyle change has already happened. We are
Sure.
already, yeah. So
Very
I
true.
think we can take the third question then, third and final question. Ashok, yeah. Have you adopted containers in your environment? So please. Okay, so I think maybe Sanjay and Sudarshan's more technical. Maybe you can comment on this.
Yeah,
What
I
are
think,
the,
go ahead.
no, I was just thinking, what are the results? Because I'm sharing my screen, so I will not be able to see the.
Okay, fair enough. So it says significant, almost 57% are evaluating containers as a part of
Right.
DevOps and other initiatives. I remember one similar survey about 6 months back. There were only 10 or 20% of the customers who were
Mhm.
evaluating, and these numbers were low. So pre-COVID and post-COVID, yes, there is a significant shift. And why containerization and this initiative becomes important in keeping in mind the current IT strategy is because containers provide a very transparent and seamless portability of applications across private cloud and public cloud, and also bring in significant agility from a DevOps perspective. So this is something those who are increasing their speed towards the cloud would certainly need to go for, and that's the right reflection in the survey here.
Yeah,
Uh,
and also the CNCF, which most of you would know, which is the cloud native body, carried out the survey. I think they're doing a 2020 survey. It just got announced, but they did a 2019 survey. There's an enormous, almost an exponential shift of customers moving from test and development adoption of containers into production. So which simply shows that it's not necessarily a hobby or a science project. Containers provide enormous benefit. More importantly, the microservices approach and the microservices design, applications that are moving into the microservices architecture. So it simply means that many more customers are moving most of their applications into production grade containerized platforms that could be on-prem, and like Sanjay mentioned, that could also leverage the true power of the hybrid cloud. We would also cover a section of that, in my presentation. Over to you, Sunil and Sanjay.
Yeah. So anyway, with that, we conclude the fireside chat. Thank you,
Mhm.
Sanjay and Sudarshan, for that very enlightening discussion.
yes,
So now I think, sorry, yeah, now I think we'll move on to the presentation of the day by Sudarshan. So
Yeah,
over to you,
sure.
Sudarshan.
Yeah, thanks. So I think this is in reflection of what we've been discussing for the past, 30 minutes or so, is that the numerous customers that we have spoken to, the C-level executives, they have resonated essentially what's captured across those four different, segments. One is customers, especially, with the work from home initiative becoming pretty much the only option that is available for a large section of employees. Federated collaboration becomes a very important aspect. To kind of provide the same seamless experience that they had before in an office environment. Now, teams are more diverse, the locations are diverse. So essentially, how do you ensure productivity? How do you ensure that synergy? So technologies that essentially facilitate federated collaboration is, becoming an important aspect. What Sanjay was describing was the fact that resilient, scalable infrastructure becomes an important, aspect during these times. Along with this comes the whole aspect of compliance, security, and all of those. So cybersecurity becomes at the forefront in the current situation, especially enabling work from home. Digital transformation initiatives. There are some programs that are moved on, but there are certain aspects. I mean, we all understand that technology is going to be a great enabler, and those that are on the mature, those that are highly mature from a digital transformation perspective, pretty much didn't have much of a hassle transitioning, into the work from home culture. So as a result, what we would see is CIOs and CXOs prioritizing those aspects of digital transformation that is going to be reflective of the current situation that we are in. And what's also important to understand is like what Sunil was mentioning, that this is not a temporary fix. This is not going to be something, this is pretty much going to be the way that we're going to operate for various reasons. That the fact that employee productivity goes up, a lot of them do prefer working from home. So essentially, that becomes an important aspect. So in the first section of my presentation, I'm going to talk about what do we have to offer, from enabling the work from home initiative. What are our technologies that we're bringing at the forefront? So we'll have a quick glance of those. The challenges that companies face enabling work from home is essentially to do with ensuring that the applications that are delivered, are compliant and the data is kept secure. We did see a lot of customers expand their VPN bandwidth, but then they've been talking to us and saying that probably VPN is not the best way moving forward, because VPN, what happens is, obviously there's a lot of administrative efforts that are required to ensure that the applications can be delivered over VPN. But what's also important is that they lose that aspect of compliance and security, because once you download the data onto the local machine, the organization pretty much loses control over that. And also comes in the fact that it's very bandwidth dependent. There's a huge amount of data transfer happening. So what customers are really looking at is, how do I enable that whole remote desktop? How do I enable the desktop experience to be delivered? And that is where solutions like VDI comes into the forefront. Now, even in the VDI space, I would like to kind of divide this into two areas. One is the structured and unstructured data. The unstructured data predominantly for the numerous VDI sizings that we've done. Unstructured data is predominantly much larger compared to the structured data in a VDI environment. And we'll precisely look at how are we addressing the whole modernizing unstructured data in a VDI environment. Of course, there are situations where now, because it's tough to kind of order a laptop, ship out a laptop, or a notebook out to users. So essentially, bring your own device is becoming popular, but along with that comes in the whole concern of how do I patch it up? How do I ensure that these devices are compliant? And also the IT team, the IT administrative team is looking at how do I kind of, support these users during break fix, or if there is a break in that whole logistical delivery of the desktop, how do I ensure productivity? How do I support them? So all of this becomes an important concern, for customers that want to enable work from home initiatives. At the same time, from an end user perspective, is to kind of continue, make sure that the business is as usual, ensure that they have all seamless access to all the applications that they were, accessing ensure that new applications are being swiftly delivered to them, and the flexibility of being able to work across any device. That's essentially multiple form factors. It's either your mobile phones, your tablets, or your laptops or desktops. So essentially, how do you ensure that that the seamless application delivery happens and across the form factors? Now, kind of this is something that we've seen across, that the large enterprise have gone ahead and announced that this whole work from home initiative is not, like I said, a temporary fix. We would almost see, like, large organizations announcing that 75% of the workforce, or close to about 80% of the workforce, is going to permanently work from home, and they've realized the benefits, and they're taking the current situation into consideration, and quickly ramping up the delivery capabilities of desktops to the end users. And Gartner also did a survey, and it's pretty much reflective of what we're hearing from our customers, and what we are hearing from you as well, from the survey that you just undertook. But what's important as part of this entire exercise is to kind of have a good profiling of the user base, is to really understand what is the avatar or the persona of the user. I mean, are they the normal task workers, or they that demand more applications, therefore are more resource hungry, which is like knowledge users? Or could be your developers, which essentially represent roughly about 5 to 10% of the organization, that are most demanding from a resource standpoint. So we've been speaking to numerous customers, and they have pretty much validated the ratio typically falls somewhere in the range of 70 to 80% for task workers. Knowledge could be anywhere in the range of 10 to 20%, and then the power developers typically is either 10% or 5%. So what we've also done is we've kind of built out reference architectures. You could talk to your account teams, where you could quickly onboard the entire, we've taken care of the design, we've taken care of the entire aspect. So we've released out programs and bundles out there for quickly enabling our customers to be able to kind of onboard the work from home initiative. Now, what I want to touch upon is, what are the solutions that we're focusing, and how do we enable the whole work from home initiative? Now, we have a very strong partnership with VMware, and this partnership is just not about the software alone, but there's a lot of engineering, research, and joint collaboration that we do with VMware. Now, if the work from home initiative, obviously we think of VDI, you think of delivering applications from and managing these applications, then you're thinking of Workspace ONE. So essentially the Workspace ONE and Horizon is what VMware brings onto the table from a software standpoint. Now, we also have the situation where the entire VDI can be enabled as part of a software-defined data center, where it could be one of the workloads that's running. That's where aspects like the software-defined networking, NSX, the hyperconverged, which is enabled through vSAN, all of that comes into the forefront. And we also know now that the Horizon control plane can be moved onto the cloud, while you focus on the crucial, critical delivery of these desktops, from on-premise, and they can further be extended to multiple clouds like VMware Cloud on AWS and the other public cloud vendors. Now, what we have to provide from Hitachi are a couple of important aspects. One is, we give you the choice and the flexibility based upon a prescriptive approach, whether these desktops could be delivered from a converged platform or a hyper-converged platform, or if you want to enable the complete software-defined data center, turnkey private cloud, where VDI is one of the workloads, then we have the rack scale platform for that. More importantly, I spoke and touched upon the unstructured data. That's where our object storage comes in. We'll look at how object storage ensures a compliant delivery of the unstructured data to the end users. At the same time, we enable aspects like enterprise file sync and share, and therefore we complement the whole VMware technology that's there. And what's more important, which I would like to touch upon, is the fact that it's just not the software and hardware. Where we have invested, where we are ensuring that you have accelerated time into production, is the fact that we have ensured that the day zero automation, that is essentially when you kind of order these systems from Hitachi and they come, and these are basically appliances, which means that you already have the hypervisor and the software defined storage that is factory integrated and shipped out. But once it lands in your environment, once it lands in your data center, what we ensure is that we automate the entire day zero deployment process. And what it's shown is that it's almost about 85% faster compared to the traditional deployment approach. And more importantly, it kind of compares itself against a rules-based validation engine, so that ensuring a complete, seamless, best practice oriented deployment of the infrastructure. We kind of discover the nodes, we kind of install the software, we kind of ensure we configure the network, we kind of join it into the management plane, which is the vCenter, and make sure that these systems are ready to use. So that entire day zero automation is provided to you. Then post that, what is very important is once you kind of deploy, that's when the business starts realizing the benefit of the entire solution that they have procured, which is day one and beyond. And day one and beyond is essentially where the operational efficiency comes into picture. What we have ensured, like what Sanjay was referencing to before earlier, was that we have a single pane of glass. So irrespective of you choose a converged, hyper-converged, or a rack scale, you have a common management plane across this entire infrastructure. It provides you the lifecycle management of upgrading the firmware, delivering. Suppose if you are connecting external SAN storage into the hyperconverged environment, we provide the automated delivery of storage resources into the HCI cluster. What we also do is we integrate into third-party softwares, and more importantly into VMware as well. So we integrate very closely with vRealize Operations, vRealize Login Site. So what we're doing in essence is providing the contextual information of the hardware right into the software that your virtual administrators use day in and day out. And they can control the entire underlying infrastructure from vCenter itself. So it provides a great amount of operational efficiency for our customers. Moving to the other two areas, the entire solution is a turnkey solution, which means it's a certified appliance. The content platform that numerous customers that we've spoken to have appreciated the whole idea of bringing in the object storage to provide that cloud home drive and not undertake the traditional approach of providing user store or user data from a Windows file server or a traditional NAS environment, but really to go ahead and modernize. And we look at the various aspects of what are the benefits of modernizing the unstructured data using an object storage, and then we can drive advanced analytics into the user data from various solutions that we have. The last one is we've spoken to customers based upon the current situation do go to public cloud, but they realize that the VDI workload is very performance hungry, and it's the best to kind of have the hybrid approach to kind of profile the users and decide which are the users that might be better off using public, whereas most of the rest of the users would be on premise. So we have an entire turnkey stack, which is VMware Cloud Foundation ready. It's a pre-integrated, pre-engineered system, easily deployed. We can extend the capability to VMware Cloud on AWS. At the same time, if you are an existing Hitachi customer, if you have existing Hitachi storage, the big advantage that you would have is you're able to use an external FC storage into a hyperconverged or a VMware Cloud Foundation environment, and we ensure the complete delivery of those storage services into the HCI cluster in a completely automated fashion, which means that we take care of the SAN zoning, you kind of take care of the operational aspects like increasing the data store, deleting the data store, all of those aspects that you can think of, that is completely automated from Hitachi standpoint. Very quick on the slide. This will just tell you that not only do we ship appliance, but we've gone that extra bit, ensure that customers are deploying the solutions with as minimum risk as possible or zero risk. So the idea here is that we've gone ahead and certified our appliances with the end user computing badge. We've used Login VSI to test how many desktops can be delivered, let's say from a 4-node HCI, and we're looking at close to about 400 desktops for 4 nodes, almost about 100 desktops per HCI node. But that is, we can actually deliver more because we are very, very much within the threshold of what the benchmarks are set. And we're able to cater to close to about 100,000 IOPS from a bootstrap standpoint. We've used instant clone, which means that the instant clone, or linked clones, what you would call them now, is all storage optimization features that are available. And you could manage the platform using the JMP, the just-in-time management platform as well. So it's integrated, it's tested. What you can do is you can scale by adding additional load-balanced appliances. It gives the customer the quickest path to put up a virtual desktop infrastructure, because you have a certified appliance and the testing having taken place. And the testing pretty much involves the task user, the knowledge user, the power user, and all of those. So pretty much we have a very predictable way of deploying a VDI infrastructure within your premises. Now, I would want to touch upon the unstructured data that I spoke about. Very important. We've gone through numerous sizings, large 5,000, 10,000 VDIs, and what we see is that the unstructured data typically is about 60% of the usable capacity that a VDI environment demands. What's very important with our content platform or object storage, I'll take you through some of these important aspects, is the fact that by adopting Hitachi Content Platform in a VDI environment, you essentially, first and foremost, it becomes a backupless, protection, or you do not need to back up this data, because the fact is that it's an object technology. It stores multiple copies. If you have DR, it can replicate those copies. So essentially, the object storage is well known. So your entire unstructured data is eliminated from the backup cycle, saving your backup licenses cost, the repository cost. For every 1 terabyte, there's almost 5 terabytes of backup copy that's created. So all of that is completely saved. The second and most important is that we protect against ransomware. It's called the ransomware protection, which means that you could protect against ransomware attacks because there is the versioning and worm capability that is available. And most importantly, this is more like a self-service for the end user. The end user can go ahead and restore the files a point in time, and essentially this is completely available to the end user. So it's not like the IT team needs to kind of go through this complex process of restoration. The whole idea is that you give the controls in to the end user to be able to kind of retrieve data in case they have some ransomware attacks or accidentally deletion of data and etc. So all of this is completely available with the content platform. But more importantly, once you have this, the IT teams are thinking about how do I have access, not necessarily to the user data, but essentially how do I get visibility as to what are the types of files that's getting stored? Are they compliant? We don't want situations where we're storing files that are not supposed to be stored as part of this desktop as a service that is given out to the end users. So the IT team can get full visibility of the type of file, the aging of the file, and all of those that are available. And more importantly, with the content platform, we can enable the enterprise file sync and share, which enables the smart data sharing, and we can run advanced analytics on top of it. So how do we kind of bring this all together? The fact is this, that we deliver the structured data using hyperconverged, converged, or a rack scale system, running the VMware Horizon software. Then for the unstructured data, we enable the enterprise file sync and share, which is completely on-premise, completely secure. Once you have the HCP anywhere, and which is backed by the content platform or the object storage technology, you can have those collaborations in place. At the same time, like I said before, it's completely ransomware protected, At the same time, it's completely backupless as well. So the cloud home drive, as we would call it, typically we've seen anywhere in the range of 50 GB per user to close to about 100 GB. And these are, the content platform is massively scalable, and it's more like pay as you grow kind of model. So you buy what is required today, and then you keep adding and scaling, the object storage that is there. And this is completely redefining the way a VDI environment is consumed. And then we can bring in aspects like our Hitachi Content Intelligence to do indexing, search, ascribe custom metadata to your files. So, you have full visibility into the type of data that is going in, and, search, indexing, and all of those capabilities become far, efficient for the organization. So essentially, in essence, work from home initiative, the content platform, the HCP Anywhere, the enterprise file, on-premise enterprise file sync and share is our differentiated offering, which is running, let's say, for the primary VDI software, you could run it on a hyperconverged converged, have a single pane of glass, and we kind of ensure that day zero automation of deployment is completely ensured. So this is a very quick way of essentially ensuring a quick delivery of desktops to your end users. Now, I want to switch tracks a bit and move into the always-on infrastructure within the data center. I think we are over time, but I'll quickly kind of elaborate on the important points that I wanted to bring as part of today's presentation. So when you look into the data center, like Sanjay mentioned about the whole VSP 5500 series, what we're doing is we're ensuring that our storage system that we just released, which is the 5500, and then we have the mid-range all NVMe storage system, are essentially the foundation for modern enterprises, ensures that you're future-proof ready. So new technologies that are coming in, like storage class memory, persistent memory, NVMe over Fabric, all of that is pretty much a given as part of the platform. When the whole industry is ready, the platform can quickly adopt. But while you continue to use what is today, which is essentially you could opt for the complete NVMe, or you could have, and we are one of the very few vendors, or the only vendor, to kind of allow you to mix different drive types, that is SSD, NVMe, SAS, and all of those. So what we're ensuring is that we are laying the foundation, for the storage systems, so that you are completely future-proof ready. And it's built on the legendary SWAS, and we were one of the vendors to democratize the entire aspect between mid-range, the high-end enterprises. We have a common operating system that runs across all the platform. We have enhanced our entire management, telemetry services, the automation and etc., using the Ops Center, which I'll touch upon in the subsequent slides. So to quickly look at what Sanjay spoke about, 5500 or the VSP 5000, and quickly putting it into perspective from an application side, first and foremost, maximum number of HANA nodes that is supported, in the industry today, that's about 122. The capability of providing, SAN storage services into a HCI environment by tight integration using UCP Advisor, that is very much capable. And what we've seen is in an Oracle environment, it's blazingly fast. Now, the benchmark is out there. It's about 21 million IOPS that is delivered. Now, you might say that, hey, I might never consume 21 million IOPS. ESG, one of the analysts ran a survey. The whole idea is that we're not looking at a particular workload doing 21 million IOPS. The idea is that you take all the siloed infrastructure that is sprawled out within the data center, and you're able to consolidate onto a single platform that has scale up, scale out features, that has the capability to give you 100% data availability guarantee, and massively scalable. What they found out was that by this consolidation exercise of customers consolidating multiple storage environment into a single system, you almost had 43% reduction in total cost of ownership. And then when you look at the the 4:1 effective capacity that we give, the total cost of ownership further reduces, or the return on investment is amazing. So the whole concept here is that you onboard a future-proof ready storage technology in your data center, and we go through this prescriptive approach of looking at your workloads and enabling that massive parallelism that NVMe is able to offer. At the same time, for workloads that might not need NVMe, that are happy to live on let's say an SSD or a SAS or an LLSAS based tier, you have single storage system that's able to address all of that. And most importantly, from a manageability aspect, you have a single pane of glass there. You're able to kind of have the AIOps enabled out of the box. At the same time, automation becomes a very key theme, API centric. So that is also provided to you using our OpsCenter automator that is there. And data protection. When I come to data protection, couple of themes very quickly. We are one of the vendors, the only one that gives you 100% data availability guarantee. There's a survey done. The cost of an outage is roughly about $740,000 US, or a typical outage lasts about 138 minutes. But here, you have an SLA-backed, contract-backed guarantee that is given to you, 100% data availability guarantee. And we've been giving this for almost close to about 20 years right now. And a lot of our customers have enjoyed the capability. And this runs across the entire portfolio range. It's not just limited to one model alone. This 100% data availability guarantee is available across all our VSP systems. The other one was the GAD. The whole idea is that why do you kind of need to have a secondary data center that's passive in nature, unused, therefore sunk investment cost? The whole idea is why can't we load balance it across multiple data centers, and more importantly, offer that non-stop IT services, which is zero RPO, RTO. Along with the data availability guarantee. So the secondary data center is pretty much active. It's a load balanced data center. Applications such as VMware, Oracle, all of these could pretty much leverage this. We had one of the large IT ITS organization actually go up on their shareholder report and say, by virtue of implementing, Hitachi's technology, that is GAD, they have improved their business resiliency. And more importantly, this is not something that is done by an external appliance. This is embedded right into the microcode. So you could choose to enable the GAD for certain volumes. You could choose the other volumes. Probably does not need the HA feature. But the whole concept here is that we providing you the zero RPO, RTO capability. It can extend from 2DC to 3DC. In some cases, we have customers even looking at a 4 data center, approach. Now, we spoke a lot on the structured. We spoke how we are modernizing the structured data. From the unstructured data, I spoke about the content platform, VDI environment, object storage. Another important aspect is essentially elimination of tapes. For every terabyte of data that is created, there's almost 5 terabytes, or 1x to 5x ratio, from a backup perspective. So how do we kind of eliminate crucial data from the backup cycle? One is, if it's unstructured data, you archive it, you run through a policy, you identify files that are aged, you archive it. For structured data, the same content platform, you could use your backup software, the ones that you're using, and essentially have the content platform for long-term retention purposes, and the same data can be replicated across. So therefore, eliminating the whole tapes from the entire delivery chain or within the data center itself. So what you could do is, we have customers that do D to D to T is what the favored approach is, but a lot of customers are modernizing that right now, and they're talking about disk to cloud. And cloud, when I say, is on-premise object storage, right? So that is a very important modernization from a backup infrastructure that's happening. The last slide, we spoke about, I saw the survey results, very much indicative of what CNCF is carried out. One is that we provide the crucial infrastructure that's required, and containers, when it started out, was meant to be ephemeral in nature, but then databases and lots of other applications required persistent storage. So we have been in the forefront of developing that capability of with the CSI, the Container Storage Initiative, of giving you the CSI drivers so you can attach persistent storage into your containers from our storage system. At the same time, we have full stack that we have where you could essentially run the platform as a service that is using Red Hat OpenShift. Very soon we would have VMware Tanzu being capable of getting adopted on our rack scale system. You would have heard the news that we have acquired Containership. You would please reach out to your account managers to just get to know as to what are we doing with this acquisition, what are we doing in the Kubernetes space, what is Hitachi's native offering in this space. And if you look at it, it's very important to look at that the orchestration engine that we're talking about is essentially, if you go the traditional, not the traditional, if you go the approach that you want to do it yourself, the amount of technological complexity and choices out there is huge. So vendors like us, vendors like Red Hat, vendors like VMware have fortified, chosen the best of the breed, let's say for containers, for the orchestration, for the CI/CD pipeline, for your repository. At the same time, looking at the various telemetry services that is required as part of this, and fortified and built a very enterprise grade container platform. And we, from a Hitachi standpoint, you have various offerings to choose from. So please do talk to your account team, on more of what we're doing with regards to the containers side of journey. Now, all of these solutions that I spoke about, considering the current situation, is just not about doing a capex. We also offer this under the Everflex program, where you could buy it. Either one is you could lease it. That's one part of it. But under the Everflex, you can do the cloud-like pay-per-use utility model that's available for all the solution sets that I spoke about. Okay. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Sunil.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Sudarshan, for that very insightful presentation. So I think since we are running out of time, maybe we can just take one, brief question and brief answer. Maybe Sanjay can answer it. Are we only addressing large-scale organizations? What about mid-level and small organizations?
I think the context of this is from a data perspective. The solutions that we have is for small, mid, and large organizations as well. We did share the numbers that were corresponding to the highest size of the platform, but yes, we do have solutions when it comes to platform for data storage for starting or early, entry-level organization or entry-level models we have. When it comes to data, that's predominantly metadata. We have seen that there is a bit of mismatch typically in the industry, but what we provide generally when it comes to metadata is full control of the metadata, even for a smaller organization where they can pick up a small footprint of our object storage and then leverage cloud with full control on metadata. So it can be as small as a few terabytes, 20, 30, 40 terabyte, and can go all the way to 100, 800 or 900 petabytes.
Okay, so thank you, Sudarshan and Sanjay, for that very deep and informative session. So
Thank you,
I think, yeah.
Thank you.
So on behalf of DataQuest and Hitachi Vantara, I would like to thank all our participants for joining this webinar. We hope you found it useful. Don't forget to fill in the feedback form. So have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.